Yes, hello and welcome everybody to the second episode of the MoDXtra vodcast. Woo! I'm Chris, otherwise known online as True Mr. Six, and with me today I have Andy,
aka Gozer.
Gozer. I can already see a pattern emerging.
Okay.
And we are two massive UK-based man nerds who are here today to talk to you about our lives as man nerds.
Yeah, nice. Have you been working on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about it. In my head, it sounded okay, but then when I just said it out aloud, I'm like, nah, I don't know.
I'm more of a man child.
No comment. No comment. Well, good evening, Mr. England. How are you this fine, fine day?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, not too bad. I don't know if the listeners can hear, I've got a little bit of a throaty, nosy, snotty thing going on.
Lovely.
But I will manage my way through that regardless. The show must go on, as they say, and therefore we shall continue to record in spite of my phlegm.
Fight your coronavirus.
Well, I can still taste things, and I have no persistent cough, so I believe I'm okay.
They all say to start off with.
I don't fancy the swabbing, you know? That doesn't appeal.
No? Love a good swab.
I'm certain you do. You make special trips just for a swabbing.
I've had 43 corona tests in the last 2 months.
Yeah. A little known fact for the listeners, actually. Andy has for many years now intentionally travelled to the location of crop circles just on the off chance that he might get kidnapped by aliens for a swabbing.
True story.
True story, absolutely. How was that one for you, my man?
Not bad, not bad.
For on the fly, off the cuff. Well, welcome everybody to our second episode. It's very exciting. We've actually made it to 2 now.
It is the second one.
We've had some feedback, and thank you to those who have given their feedback. It seems like the format and the content was okay. However, the delivery mechanism is under question, so we're going to continue popping it out on YouTube as this vodcast, but watch this space. We may explore getting the audio out.
Yeah.
You can't win. When we put just audio out, people ask for the video. And when we put just the video version out, people ask for the audio. It's a tough one to navigate.
Yeah. Plus, your YouTube's free.
Indeed it is. And that is the entire motivation. Well, not the entire motivation, but certainly one of the contributing factors. But anyway, less about that and more about what we're here to do. And that's talk about our man nerd lives. And we've got loads lined up for this episode. We've done our rewatch. We've got a reread. We've another random debate battle thing to do. But before we get into any of that, the normal routine from here on in will be to ask, what have you been up to in the last 2 weeks since we last recorded, my good man?
Ooh, well, I've been doing quite a lot. Mostly watching series. I've managed to this week devour season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which
very good.
Is very good, very exciting. Season 8, the last season. Oh no, maybe it was season 6. Now, season 6 and season 7, which is the last season, comes out next month. So I googled it at the end, and it's not too long to wait, a couple of weeks or just over.
Oh, okay.
So that's quite exciting. It was out in the US, so people in America would have seen it, but over in the UK on Disney Plus, that will be coming out. So that's good. I've been main way through the first.
I'm a bit behind. I'm a bit behind on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh yeah, it's good. Catch up. It's all on Disney Plus as well, which is nice.
Yes.
Another series on Disney Plus is Agent Carter. I've done a season 1 of that, and I'm halfway through season 2. I'd recommend that as well. I think that's really good. It's like an old style kind of crimey caper type thing, but with the Marvel weirdness.
Right.
So that's cool. I also did Gordon Ramsay Unchained, again, to keep on Disney Plus. Uncharted. Can't read my own writing.
I don't know what that is.
Gordon Ramsay goes around, cooks stuff in different countries.
Oh, okay.
Which is good. I also did, since we last spoke, American Barbecue Showdown, the series. Did all that in a day. That was really good. That's like Bake Off, only in America. And instead of cakes, it's like big fat slabs of meat.
It sounds torturous to watch, surely.
No, it's good.
This week, folks, Andy has been messaging me almost nightly about his takeaway menu orders that he's been making. Is this why this is? Have you been watching these food shows?
I like a good food show. But yeah, no, I'm home alone this week as we record it. So I've been able to indulge myself in all sorts of naughty takeaways.
All becomes clear.
All becomes clear. I started watching the Preacher series, which we'll speak more about Preacher later on in the episode. But I managed to devour season 1 and started on season 2 of that as well. So
very good.
Put some hours in on the TV watching these last couple of weeks.
You have. I suppose if the family lamb's away, that's how you're filling your time.
Indeedy doody doos. Watch Borat, the second Borat movie.
Oh, okay. Is it any good?
Yeah, it appealed to my childish sense of humour. I think it's something that you're either going to like or not. It's quite extreme out there.
Yeah, I have a problem with cringy stuff. Like, it's not that I can't recognise that it's funny or that it's entertaining, but, things that just make you kind of go, oh, no, and sort of watch through your fingers, not because you're scared, but because it's like, oh, did he really just say that? These types of things.
Yeah.
I have a real challenge getting through them. And Sacha Baron Cohen stuff, like Ricky Gervais' stuff, there's been things he's done that, again, I think are hilarious, but I just can't get through them. And Alan Partridge, I love Alan Partridge, but I sometimes can't get all the way through an Alan Partridge because my body is just contorting to the cringe of it all.
It is definitely 10 out of 10 for the cringe factor. Without a doubt, you will struggle.
Is it? Okay, right, yeah. And it's not that I think there's anything wrong with them. I just struggle. Yeah,
it is. It's a bit like you can't watch. You have to hide behind the sofa. Ghostbusters 1 and 2 in preparation for our conversation later. And also, I watched Rogue One again today.
Ugh.
Why? Ugh.
Rogue One's rubbish.
No, it's not. It's really good.
No, it's dreadful.
I don't know how you can call it dreadful. It's a good movie.
Okay, sorry, my apologies. In my humble opinion, it was not to my taste.
Oh, thank you very much. And that's all my watching stuff. I've also been reading because I like reading books. I also like to read books that are free on iBooks on my iPad because I don't have to pay for them. And there's loads of free stuff. Been over the last few weeks, but I have read the Surviving the Evacuation by Frank Tale, maybe. If you put in Surviving the Evacuation, it'll come up, which are cool. There is a series of 3 books about a zombie invasion by the point of view of a British guy. And it's his diary. So he fills his journal up. He writes in his journal every day, and it's done in that way. And it's all about his evacuation out of London and then his subsequent fun as he tours around the UK trying not to get eaten.
And is it serious? Is it dramatic and scary, or is it a comedic twist, or what's the sort of?
No, it's pretty serious. It's certainly not a laugh, but it's a good read. It was good. I do like a good free book. I'll probably talk about them again, although it takes me a little bit of time to get through a book or a series. But I usually pick something up on the free book list on iBooks from the sci-fi and fantasy section and see if it's any good. Usually there's loads of good stuff on there, like unknown authors or people who have just kind of put a book out or not got published but will get published online or
self-published stuff. Yeah, I've got a few friends who are self-published authors, and
it's cool, and it's a good way of getting entertainment for free. So yeah, read through those. I'd say they're worth a read. It goes on. It's got like books 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 where you have to pay a bit for them. But the first 3 books do kind of finish off a story arc, as it were. So it does kind of finish there, which makes you think maybe you should have made the third one a pay for one. But they're cool. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've been up to. Other than we played a bit of Apex, played a bit of Avengers, played a bit of Rocket League on the PlayStation, which was fun. But yeah, I think I've spoken for long enough. But yeah, loads of geeking out in the England household this week.
Do the food shows meet the man nerd criteria of what this is all about?
I don't know, but I did it and I'm proud of it.
Well, I suppose if it's what you're nerdy about, it's what you're nerdy about. I mean, who are we? Who am I to judge what your nerd thing is, I suppose.
American Barbecue Showdown is an awesome series of programs. Really highlights the quality of the American barbecue.
I find it strange that the likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus are making shows of that nature. Like, in my head, I don't associate streaming services with that type of TV show. That feels like it should just be on proper telly.
Proper telly. Yeah, the Gordon Ramsay on Disney Plus, that's a little bit like, what? So is Gordon Ramsay like a Disney character? It's a little bit odd. Enjoyable nonetheless.
Well, that's because the Disney brand has got National Geographic as part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's done as a travel
which I'm assuming, which I'm assuming it was a part of. I remember back when I worked for Sky Television, one of the big controversial twists and turns that we had at one point was National Geographic. The negotiations to keep National Geographic fell through. Obviously, now in later years, we understand why, because Disney Plus had plans and intentions of their own. But the call centres at Sky got inundated. I mean, literally like massive, enormous spikes in incoming call volumes of people ringing up to ask why their National Geographic channel had just been shut off. It is hugely popular.
That's weird, isn't it? I don't think I've ever watched it.
No, I mean, the odd documentary here or there, I watch whenever they have music-related documentaries and stuff. But I had no concept or idea of how popular National Geographic was until that day when they pulled the plug and said, right, the deal's fallen through, you're not getting our channel anymore. And the call centres just went, I mean, insane. You can't even, it might like triple the amount of people ringing the call centres, pressing the one for TV inquiries, saying, where's my National Geographic gone? Because I think there's a lot of people who just sort of pop it on and use it like radio, like factual radio.
Yeah, I get that.
But anyway, there we go. So,
yeah, no.
And there's plenty of history nerds out there who would enjoy National Geographic content, of course.
Indeed. So, enough about what I've been up to. What have you been up to, mate?
What have I been up to? So, in the last episode, I mentioned a couple of things that I was looking forward to, which was the Trial of the Chicago 7, Aaron Sorkin's new movie on Netflix. And I said I was probably going to check out the new season of Star Trek Discovery, of which I did both.
Any good?
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek Discovery, I alluded to it in our last episode. Even though it's a Star Trek, it sometimes doesn't feel very Star Trek-y to me. Like, the tone of it, even though it's Star Trek computers and spaceships, and they still have Star Trek style MacGuffin stuff, warp drives and black holes and what have you, that are standard staples. It doesn't fit. I don't know if it's something to do with the way they film it, or they swear, for example, which I think doesn't kind of
say what.
Yeah, and when I think back to my days of, Deep Space Nine is my absolute all-time favourite Star Trek series, and when I think back to that and in comparison, you know what I mean? However, I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes so far, and by the time this episode goes out, I'll have watched the 3rd. It's a nice distraction, something to dip into. They're doing that drip feed thing, though, an episode a week.
Oh.
Which does my nutting on streaming services.
Talk like that.
No, it's the thing that is attractive about streaming services to me is that I can binge watch like a maniac. I don't need to be coming back every bloody week. Stop it. They did that with The Boys as well, which did my head in.
Yeah.
Trial of the Chicago 7 is outstanding. Is up to the usual Aaron Sorkin standard that I have come to know and love. I enjoyed it very, very much. It is, as I mentioned to you in the last episode, very focused on the actual courtroom drama bit of the experience. The actual riot itself is referred to in flashbacks throughout the movie. One thing I did notice, and a lot of West Wing and Aaron Sorkin nerds out there will cotton onto this too. Aaron Sorkin has these little kind of preoccupations and these little jokes and lines that he uses over and over again, and there was tons of dialogue that had appeared in other Aaron Sorkin stuff.
How cool.
I don't know if that's lazy or something.
Accidentally mix up his scripts or something.
Yeah, who knows? But there's a joke that's told in a bar in one scene in the Trial of the Chicago 7. That's a joke that's told in an episode of The West Wing. And there's one of the big inspiring political speeches in the movie mirrors a big inspiring political speech in The Newsroom. So I was just like, But I think it's just because it's what he's a raving liberal political animal, and that's what all his TV shows and movies are about. So there's that. I've also started watching the second season of The Alienist on Netflix, which is all right. It's all right. I watched the first season.
What's that about?
So it's about a alienist is like old Victorian terminology for a psychologist, and it follows this psychologist who investigates Victorian serial killers, and he's got this little squad of like Scooby Gang types who help him investigate them. The first season was about it was like a traditional legit serial killer. This one's about a child kidnapping thing, which is it's dark, and a bit grim at times. But it's got that guy. Oh Jesus, his name's just fallen out my head. The one who played Baron Zemo in Winter Soldier, and is going to be in the new Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've no idea what his name is.
Oh, it's just fallen right out my head.
Dave.
And that's annoying me. Yeah, Dave. So yeah, that guy. But I liked him. I've liked him in other stuff. He was in one of the Edward Snowden films. Was it Edward Snowden? Maybe not. Daniel Bruhl. I've just looked him up.
Ah, there you go.
Daniel Bruhl. Yeah, and I've seen him in a few things, so I enjoy it from his performance, and there's a couple of other good actors, so that's okay. And then a bit of nerdy tech news. I got my new iPhone 12 Pro last week.
Ooh, very fancy.
Very exciting. Yeah, it is very fancy too, actually. I've been using the camera quite a bit. If there's one main improvement that I have observed since getting it, is that the photography is just leaps and bounds ahead of what I had on the X.
Wow.
Leaps and bounds ahead. And the screen is just mind-blowingly good. Like, really good. I'm sure there are people who are techier nerds than me who would know and understand the specification, but I've been enjoying it very much. And I've also been playing around in iOS 14 with the new widget functionality.
Yeah, I've been playing around with that.
I don't think it's there yet. I'm not sure it does what I want it to do.
No, it's all right.
In the way that I want it to do it, So it's all right. I'm not bowled over, but I'm certainly very happy with my 12, except for the fact that I use a lot of plug-in accessories at the bottom of my phone, and I can't find a case with, like the cutaway around the the lightning. I can't find a case with a big enough cutaway to accommodate the many and varied plug-in accessories that I use.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, or certainly not at a price I'm willing to pay. Some of the cases that are out and about there are like 40, 50 quid. I mean, who pays 40, 50 quid for a phone case? Well, somebody, obviously, because they wouldn't be selling it, but there you go. And then on the gaming front, a bit of Apex with your good self. I've been trash. I've been playing really garbage. I don't know what's up with me this last 2 weeks. I was reflecting upon it the other day, and I wonder, as the end of the season comes closer, does it go quiet for a bit, and then people come back to it? More talented people come back to it just for a final push as the season comes to an end?
Or people get a bit bored and play something else, and so it's just the kind of hardcore sweaters that are left.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I'm feeling outclassed at the minute. And, well, yeah, I had a dreadful night the other night, didn't I? I was just barely getting a kill a game, which is very unusual for me. So, and that's been consistent. That's happened to me 3 or 4 sort of play sessions in a row now, which is disconcerting, but what are you going to do? And I've been playing a little bit of Hearthstone Battlegrounds on my laptop, which I think I've mentioned to you before.
Yeah, you put that up on the Twitch as well.
I did stream, yeah. I stole away for about an hour and a half. I had a bit of time off work to look after the kids, he says in speech marks, and then left them in front of Disney Plus and went upstairs and did some Hearthstone streaming.
Very nice. And if you want to check that out, that is Twitch, and was it MoDXtra?
Yes.
That's where you'll find it.
And we're still wrestling with... We still want to do more Apex streaming, but we're still wrestling with some of the audio problems.
Oh, God, yeah, it's well annoying.
I think it should... I think conceptually the idea... So what I discovered was that I can share party chat, Xbox party chat, and there is a Xbox app that's available on your iPhones and Android that you don't have to have an Xbox for. You can just have a Microsoft account for. So I suggested to Andy maybe he could open up a chat on that as a... just the same way as you might use Discord, for example, and we'll set up a party chat, and then I click the button on the native Twitch app on the Xbox to share party chat, and then the viewers should be able to hear both of us. But for some reason, it didn't work. And when it did work, there was like this dreadful echo going on. So I've been doing some further research, and I think there's something about who sets up the party, and then as a result of who sets up the party, there's like a box to tick to give permission to allow it to go on Twitch and things that we need to test out. We've not tested it yet. But I've also taken a closer look at capture cards and things. So we're a bit on the wrong side of Christmas for me to start looking into that. But maybe after Christmas, I might be able to sort something out. And I've done a bit of work on the missus about, well, you know, if this bit at the end of the TV cabinet, just under the telly, if you know, dropping a bit of that in the mix as well. So please do stick with us on the Twitch. Certainly Hearthstone Battlegrounds is going out, and I keep threatening to do a Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise playthrough as well on it, or maybe some solo Apex when one or the other of us are on solo, or you can watch both of us but only hear one of us talking. That kind of thing. Cool.
Couple of exciting things coming. Oh, sorry, dude.
I was just saying that's me. Yeah,
that's you. Couple of exciting things coming up. Well, would have come out by the time that we release this on the 30th. We have got the Mandalorian.
Ooh, Mandalorian. Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
So this Friday, just gone, as you listen to this, at least that's out for consumption. I do hope they don't do that drip feeding. That'd be a pain in the bum. And
did they drip feed it last time?
No, they just banged it out, I think.
I think they drip fed it in the US, and then we got it a bit later, didn't we? As a whole,
right?
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see then. And the other thing that I'm quite excited to watch is on Amazon Prime called Truth Seekers, which is a Nick Frost and Simon Pegg series. Which
we are so tuned in. We are so somehow telepathically linked because I'm looking forward to both of them too.
Yeah, so there's some exciting things coming out, which is cool because I've pretty much drained or caned through a lot of the series that I've watched. So I'll be looking forward to getting those under my belt as well.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. Well, come back in 2 weeks' time to perhaps gather our thoughts, capture our thoughts on what we thought of the first couple of episodes of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, bro. Well, there you are, everybody. You've been fully updated on our Man Nerd Fortnights. Shall I tell the listeners what we've got coming up in the episode then?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, we'll start with Andy's Retro Corner. This is where Andy sets a retro challenge for me. We're mostly working in the space of retro movies right now, mostly around the 80s and 90s. And the rewatch that we've done for this episode is the Ghostbusters.
Who are you going to call?
Which I think is appropriate considering time of year that we're at. Back end of October, yeah. Then onto Chris's comic book corner, which is the same format, really. I'm introducing Andy to hopefully a many and varied range of comic books that I have enjoyed over the years, mostly looking at trade paperback collections, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about that. And in today's episode, the reread was Garth Ennis's The Preacher, the first volume of that. So we'll have a bit of a natter. And then in our random segment that we haven't really named, but we're copying what we did last week in the hope that that works, with a bit of a debate discussion that came up. It is my contention that Jack Bauer would beat John McClane. I nearly said Don McLean then. Bye, bye, Miss American Pie.
I'd agree with you, that one.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. That lad can swing an acoustic guitar quite viciously. You know, he uses it like a sort of blunt bludgeon. He's put a steel thing at the bottom. Anyway, less about Don McLean's bar fight experience. Yeah, his bludgeon. John McClane from Die Hard, Jack Bauer would it takes him hands down. Is far more talented, far more capable, and is just generally harder. Yeah. Stick around till the end of the episode to hear us talk through that one. And with all that said and done, that will bring us to the end of the episode. So I think we're already ticking on at a fair old rate. We better knuckle down. So should we get on with the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, then, welcome back, everybody. And as I've just mentioned in the intro there, it's time to do Andy's Retro Corner.
Woohoo!
I did a little thing there because I'm still waiting. I thought you might have done yourself your own little jingle by now.
Oh, I've forgotten. Sorry, I've been busy. I will work on that.
No worries. Just while it occurs to me as well, I've been really struggling with our little stinger segues. I'd love to know what people think of the little random stinger segues that I did. Segues
Ways.
that I did actually end up using in the last episode, and will probably use again in this episode. I don't know if they're just really cheesy in pants.
Let us know. And if you don't like them and you want to provide us with some form of alternative, then please do.
We are open to suggestions and contributions.
Always, as long as they're free.
Yeah, absolutely. License free. Don't want none of that licensing malarkey. But anyway, Andy's Retro Corner. So over to you, my man.
Yeah, so hopefully you can play along at home. The movie that we are going to take another look at is Ghostbusters, which holds a very close place in my heart because I was a massive Ghostbusters fan and still am, I suppose. I've never stopped. I loved it from the cartoon because when it came out, my mum wouldn't let me watch it because I was only 6.
Sure. Yeah.
So the cartoon was my entry in, and then I got to watch the movie when I was a bit older, and Ghostbusters 2 as well. Got to see that at the cinema, which is nice. But yeah, so Ghostbusters, again, I'm not going to bore you with a synopsis because, again, if you haven't watched Ghostbusters, then it's a classic. So if you haven't seen it, then go and watch it now.
Go and watch it.
Press pause and we'll see you in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, as good as I remember. I mean, I've much watched that movie at least 50 times. So I was pretty... I knew what it was. But watching it again, I've not watched it for a good long time, maybe kind of 10, even longer years. I very much enjoyed it. So me waffling on, what did you think? Have you watched it before? Or blah, blah?
I've obviously seen Ghostbusters like yourself. When it first came out, I was a bit too young, but I caught up with it in later years. It has been a while. Since I watched it. I actually said to my wife just before I started watching it, she said, "Oh, you've not watched that in a while. I'm surprised you don't own it because, as you know, Andy, but the listeners probably don't know, I've got a very extensive Blu-ray and DVD collection. I'm a horror for buying stuff that I don't even really need to buy anymore in this day of streaming."
Yeah.
But I picked it up off Amazon and ordered. It came in the post a couple of days ago, and I said, "Yeah, I've sort of actually been putting it off because my worry was that my nostalgic memory and my nostalgic enjoyment of the film was going to be let down watching it now in later years."
Ah, interesting. And was it?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit.
No.
I think it was a little bit, yeah. However, I still, broadly speaking, found it an enjoyable experience and still think it's a great, it deserves the cult classic label that it has because the thing about it, I suppose, is that it takes, I just really enjoy the Saturday Night Live comedy feel and tone to it all mashed onto a, sci-fi spooky concept. That just really works for me. But I did make some notes as I was going along. I don't know if you usually have a couple of points of discussion for us.
I've got a few notes, not as much as Top Gun. I don't know if my familiarity with the movie kind of stopped me from kind of being too critical. It's super 80s. It drips 80s. It's like Gozer is like with the hair and and the jumpsuit. Yeah, it's just like if you were to like open a dictionary on what is the 80s, that she would be staring back at you with a massive makeup and huge hairdo. So that was something that I brought up. The other thing was that the special effects are nowhere near as good as I remember them to be.
I wrote that down. I put effects haven't dated well at all.
No, even the streams look fake. And I can't remember ever thinking that when I was watched it when I was younger. I've
got a bit of a theory about this with films like Ghostbusters and some other movies like 80s classics that I've watched in the last couple of years. I think the advent of Blu-ray and high definition has made it all the more obvious.
I can see
how shaky some of these stuff were. I remember noticing it one time watching Back to the Future, and the flames, the two like tire track flames that were left behind in one particular scene just looked, the superimposure just was so obvious. And I just wonder if high definition has made it so much more obvious than it ever was. Yeah.
No, I can see that.
I noticed on the effects as well, like the dogs were a bit shonky, weren't they?
Yeah, the one in particular when the dog runs across the road chasing after Rick Moranis. Your Namesake,
I love it.
it is particularly poor, but I think that one was always quite bad. I remember my VHS copy, it being not as good, but they sparingly used like the kind of, I suppose, CGI. I mean, when they use more kind of models and things.
Yeah, I did notice in the later scenes that are at the top of the apartment building, there's some camera sort of pan-up shots across the set, and I felt like the painted backgrounds they were using were really obvious to me. You know, that they've obviously had someone paint a New York skyline and then put it in around the scene. But again, I wonder if that's just because in this day and age we're spoiled, because you wouldn't paint a background like that anymore in a movie. You would CGI. A real shot of the New York skyline and
things moving and stuff.
Yeah, but I can suspend my disbelief. Bad effects don't necessarily bother me really a lot of the time.
No, and it's the whole part of that 80s kind of feel that it works. I mean, I'm a massive fan of the movie. The idea was, especially at the time, was incredibly original. There's a lack, I think, of original ideas for movies, certainly kind of in this day and age. But at the time, there wasn't anything else that had happened, been like it before, and it's been kind of recreated since. But the idea is super cool and original. The comedy elements and everything, blinding.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the thing that allows you to excuse the shonky effects, is that you don't watch Ghostbusters because you want the special effects. You watch Ghostbusters because you want to see the likes of Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Harold Ramis crack wise, don't you? That's what you're there for, really. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think particularly the scene at the end when they're like, "Oh, we could cross the streams. It's very dangerous. We're probably going to die," but they're just not scared. They're not worried. It's like, I love that idea. Let's do it. And they're just like, oh, cool. Well, see you on the other side. They're not bricking it or crying or anything else. They're just like, well, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, massive demon lord comes stepping through a portal, and they're all stood in a row, just looking at it. Nobody gets behind any cover or anything.
Which, bizarrely enough, I didn't really clock at the time when I was a kid. And I suppose, again, when that came out, there wasn't a 12. I don't know if there was a PG-13 over in America. So if there was that, I just wonder if there was those elements in there, whether it would bump it up to a 15 and therefore wouldn't have as wider audience. I just wonder if that was the thinking behind it, or if they didn't think of that at all.
Perhaps, yeah. That may well be the case. I haven't, unlike Top Gun last episode, where my dad just filled my head with loads of worthless factoids about it. Maybe I should have done a bit of research about Ghostbusters beforehand, but
because one thing I did also notice is my last point on Ghostbusters, which is I always thought Peter Venkman was cool, and then on a rewatch, I found out he's actually just as much of a nerd as Egon and Ray, but tries not to be. I mean, he's like trying to speak to women, and he's just ridiculous.
Well, it's interesting you should bring that up, because I think one of the reasons I found it harder to enjoy this time around, I'll read you the very first note I wrote. I actually had a notepad and pen in front of me when I watched it this time around.
Ooh, check it out.
I wrote, Peter Venkman is a sex pest and is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I know we say it jokingly and we laugh, but by today's standard, he's a little bit creepy, like wrongly creepy. I then wrote a little later on, why did he have Thorazine with him going on the date?
Yes, I thought that as well. It's like, why did he have the sedative with him going to her house?
Which seems a little suspect to me. And again, I know we're laughing, but for our generation now, I just don't think that would have passed muster in modern Hollywood. He's slimy. He's sleazy.
He is. But I mean, I went on and I watched Ghostbusters 2, where he is completely different and basically accepts another man's child and takes her into his home. And he's a lot. The character is like completely different. As much as he's still Bill Murray and he's still the kind of got the fast talking, but it was like I noticed in the first one he seemed like a little bit of a creepy, weird, socially awkward when talking to women, which as nerds we can always kind of relate to. Whereas that step up 5 years later, it was kind of different. It was if he, he had his time with Dana Barrett and got that wrong and learnt from it. Maybe thinking far too much into it.
Maybe, possibly. But I mean, Sigourney Weaver as a female character is, she's independent, she's successful, she's a musician, she's got a great New York apartment. Although everybody in movies and TV shows live in these great New York apartments, which I don't think anybody could reasonably afford.
Yeah, right in the slap in the middle.
But yeah, that was one of my notes right from the outset. And as you well know, I work for a university. University lecturers would be in a lot of trouble if they behaved like that with student.
Electrocuting him.
Yeah, and the way he was chatting up the female student who was part of the experiment, it was all a bit concerning. I also wrote a note here: William Atherton, professional 80s dickhead.
Yeah, I didn't realise that Peck, the guy from the environmental agency who turns off the grid to their ghost storage, what's it called?
The
containment system.
The machine, yeah.
Is also the dude from Die Hard.
Yes. Yeah.
Dick Thornburg from Die Hard. I was like, what? I had to Google him. I was like, I recognise him.
Yeah,
it's Die Hard, dude.
80s dickhead. Yeah, love it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I've seen him in other things as well, where he played a headmaster in something I saw, and he was the same style of Dick. So I really appreciate seeing him, and he is just so masterful at it. Talented Dick.
This man has no dick.
Yeah, I laughed out loud. It's true. It's true. I then wrote Rick Moranis is awesome. I didn't elaborate on that. I don't know what part of the film prompted that note, but I wrote it anyway. I think, in fact, I would have written it one way or another, because when the Blu-ray arrived, I took a photo of the box and put a big red ring and a love heart around Rick Moranis' name and sent the photo to Andy. I love that guy. And then here's a random note. I don't know what made me think of this. Do American police cars actually make that little noise when they crash?
Obviously they do, yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Like every time a police car has an accident in an 80s American movie, they do a little siren like, which made me wonder. Then the note about the painted sets, Sigourney Weaver's hair. I wrote here again. What I haven't done is documented what part of the film prompted me to make the note, but I wrote Sigourney Weaver's hair. Dan Aykroyd ghost blowjob.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that.
Awkward. It's very 80s though, isn't it? It's surprised that you didn't have a random ghost pop out of a cake with her boobs out.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote that. And then I actually put here, Egon Spengler is possibly the funniest of them all.
Ooh, what prompted that?
I'm not sure. I think there was a bit where he says, you're lucky I stopped you from drilling your own head. Do you remember that? And he just, quick as a flash, said, it would have worked if you hadn't have stopped me. and he says like these weird little lines like that all the way through, which I don't think I ever noticed before, but this time around I noticed. It really, really made me laugh. Although I do love Dan Aykroyd, just something about his demeanour and character I really enjoyed as well this time around. So I think when I first saw it, as you say, Peter Venkman's the one that stands out, and Bill Murray they positioned him as the sort of central protagonist. But I think I enjoyed Egon Spengler and was it Steinman? Ray
Stantz.
Stantz. I think I enjoyed them a lot more this time around. And the fourth guy joined later.
Yeah.
Then I seem to remember him joining the team, which might be because, like yourself, I remember watching the cartoon where they were much more bedded in as a team of four.
Yeah. It also, watching it through, it's almost as if he doesn't actually like him. There's a few little bits in there where, like, they're in the car coming back just when all the shit's about to hit the fan. And he's like, do you read the Bible? Do you not think that this is happening? He's like, oh, maybe we should. And then Ray goes, well, maybe we should just put some music on. And he kind of rolls his eyes and go, yeah, right, just do that. Just don't talk to me about it. I don't know if that's bad acting or really good acting. And then when they go to prison and he's like, I'll get my own lawyer, thank you very much. I've only been working there 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't remember him not liking them.
And the three of you are clearly crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, all told, I think I did perhaps find it a little bit of a disappointment against my nostalgic memories of the movie, but I still laughed a lot. You can't help but sort of fall in love with the wisecracking stuff. Rick Moranis, coming out of his door every time Sigourney Weaver comes home and just chunnering random shite at her down the corridor and things. Brilliant. And that Rick Moranis does that 80s kind of uber nerd. He had his really nice blue shirt on for the party, and then was wearing it over the top of like a zip-up V-neck thing. Yeah. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just I love the way he misses the mark. It made me really keen to rewatch. One of the Rick Moranis movies that I really love is Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's good. That can be on the list.
And his character in this reminded me then of his character in that. I've just recently watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with my own children, in fact, as well. That has aged well. Yeah. So there you go. That was all the random notes that I made as I was watching the film.
Nice. I mean, I went on and watched Ghostbusters 2. I don't think we won't do that as a separate one, but I did notice how they developed his character. It's just 5 years on. I mean, it's only late 80s. It's not that long, but I wonder how many of those kind of thoughts went through. Maybe that's not as good. I love that film. I think that Ghostbusters 2 is up there with Ghostbusters, the first one. It's got some excellent scenes in. The one in the courtroom.
Is it the one with the painting?
Yeah, with Vigo, who is also in Die Hard. Vigo is one of the terrorists in Die Hard.
Yes, yeah.
Which he doesn't last long, but he is then there. The courtroom scene is amazing. The scene kind of when they go down into the tunnel, really good. It misses the mark for me when they drive the Statue of Liberty. There's a line. Remember. So basically, they spray the inside of the Statue of Liberty with the mood slime, and then they get a NES controller and some speakers, play it that higher and higher song, and then drive her through to the museum. There's a line, and I think with a lot of it, I mean, I could go on about this for ages, but there's a line in movies that they're trying to get us to believe stuff that isn't true already. They've already got us into the kind of the story of there's ghosts that come out and they capture them. And then you take it to that step where you're driving a national monument through the streets of New York, and you're like, I think they pushed it too far. And that just, for me, that kind of ruins it. It's a little bit like Beverly Hills Cop 3, which ain't that great anyway. But then he gets a laser gun to defeat the enemy, and you think that's not. You've got the gritty Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2. And then in the third one, you're running around with a zapper gun. It's that step too far that just kind of ruins the whole kind of ethos of it. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was music for 80s movies was so much better than today.
Ooh. I mean, I haven't put much thought into it, but I certainly have. I can certainly recall more. They commissioned songs specifically for films movies. A lot more back then.
Yeah, which you don't get.
Ghostbusters is another example of that. We mentioned all the commission movies, music for Top Gun as well, which I don't think they do quite as much anymore, do they?
No, I mean, a lot of the best films I could think of from recent-ish times reuse old, really good songs, like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Obviously, they reuse kind of amazing older songs to make a cool soundtrack. Quentin Tarantino stuff, again, they've got soundtracks that like you'd buy that soundtrack, but that's mostly kind of regurgitated stuff. Whereas things like Ghostbusters and Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop, like St. Elmo's Fire, they all had songs commissioned for the movie, which doesn't happen anymore. And you'd have like the music video would be kind of clippets from the movie and stuff.
Yes, yeah. And Ghostbusters is like the absolute pinnacle of that. You'd be hard pressed not to stand in a public place and just shout the phrase, "Who are you going to call?" and somebody would shout back Ghostbusters.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
A complete and utter stranger, but they would still do it because it's so sort of, it's the absolute pinnacle. It's so entrenched in the zeitgeist, my man, in the zeitgeist. and I'll stop with my movie criticism bullshit there for you.
Cool. I don't know what that word means. And there's Ghostbusters. So again, I hope you guys listening enjoyed it. We're not going to do a synopsis of the movie because they're pretty big movies, but just talk about our feelings going back and watching them again and the different things that we picked up on. And I've already picked the next one.
Oh, okay. Lay it on me then.
So the movie for 2 weeks' time is Short Circuit.
Wow. Is that a Disney one? Is it on Disney Plus?
It's not, but it is on Amazon. I checked, although it is a few quid, but it's not that much.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's
It's like £3.
Sure.
You could probably oversee you probably don't need it in HD, and it's not on 4K.
Johnny Five is alive.
Because they do Short Circuit 2 every so often on telly, but I can't remember the last time I saw the first one.
Yeah,
It's a long,
okay.
long time.
I mean, I really haven't watched it in a very long time, so I look forward to that one. Thank you very much, my man.
Was your dad not a secret robotics fan?
He is
to
not,
robotics fairs every month or whatever.
No,
Cool.
just planes. Okay, then. Well, bro, I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know your thoughts on Ghostbusters, folks, and we'll move on to the next segment. Okay, welcome back then, boys and girls, ladies and gents, and it's my turn now. It's Chris's Comic Book Corner, and this is where I take a trade paperback collection of a comic book series or a comic book run that I have loved and enjoyed from days gone by, and I put it in front of Andy, who is a confessed not so much of a comic book guy.
Quite a novice.
I don't know what. Yeah, and see whether the stuff that I've loved and enjoyed reading over the years still resonates with me now as I do a reread, and to see what Andy's thoughts and feelings are. And in this segment, for this episode, I set Andy the challenge of reading the first volume of Garth Ennis's The Preacher.
Yes, you did.
I did, yeah. Although I became aware, as Andy was messaging me about it, as he was reading along, that Volume 1 on the current collection is actually the equivalent of 2 of the trade paperbacks that I bought when I picked up the original run.
Oh, right.
So if there's any kind of long-standing Preacher readers out there, then it's Andy has actually read the first 2 volumes in the old format, but this new collected edition had Part 1 and Part 2 in it. Not that matters really, because of it may be a spoiler to say, but you went through and have since read it all.
Yeah, well, I'm making my way through. I'm currently on book 4.
Oh, okay, cool,
So
cool.
Chugging my way through.
Sure, absolutely, but that may be somewhat of a spoiler as to the direction of this conversation. Yeah. So I'm going to be asking you then, my good man, what did you think of The Preacher? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts. Well, I thought that The Watchmen was dark for the last episode, and this takes it to a complete another level of
yes, it does,
unbelievably different. Like I thought that was quite dark, and then you go into this. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the first book. Went on, read the second, and I said I'm on to the fourth now. I mean, I mentioned that Ghostbusters was the original storyline, but this one, Bleeding Connect, is out of. I don't want to go into too much detail in case a lot of people haven't listened to it, but it's certainly. I find it. It's harder and harder to watch something and think, oh, well, that's original, that's different, because a lot of it's the same. You know, a lot of it's very similar, a policeman or whatever. But yeah, the idea and thinking behind the main storyline is completely batshit crazy.
It really
mental.
Is. It really is. And he just layers so much more batshit stuff on as he goes on as well, which is just mind bending.
So it is nice because you've got such a different kind of thought behind it. It's very well executed. Artwork is really, really good. The characters, again, I found again with the Watchmen, the characters are also, I said cool last time, that's the wrong word. They're very well thought out and an actual, what's the word I'm trying to, they're a completed entity. They're not just a superficial kind of generic person. There's background, and oh my God, again, you go similar to Watchmen, you go take episodes to kind of go to the backstory of each character within it, so you get a real in-depth knowledge of each of them. Yeah, nuts. I mean, how did you want to kind of go into the storyline at all?
Well, we don't have to go into it. I just wanted to ask you very quickly, have you got to the meat factory bit yet?
No.
Okay. Well, those who know. You're in. If you think it's dark now, you're in for a shock. But it's a different type of darkness, isn't it? It's whereas the Watchman is a very dramatic and serious in the darkness. Yeah. The Preacher is a black comedy, isn't it? That's the darkness is there to be intentionally controversial and shocking in a blackly comic way.
Yeah. I think. To give it some context, not give too much away. So the Preacher obviously is the main character. He obtains a gift of the voice of God, which gives him the power of telling people to do something and they'll do it. He's got a mate who's a vampire, and he's got obviously,
Yeah,
which just
I'm laughing because
doesn't make any sense for him to be a vampire, but he is. And then his ex-girlfriend, who then comes back and kind of meets up with him again in very early on in the story, who he gets back with, who is just as mental and also really good at shooting guns.
Yes, yeah, and you find out why she's so good with firearms a bit later in the story as well. I'm not sure; it's all a bit of a blur for me because I've read it that many times that I can't quite place where you are in Volume 4. But you do find out more background on that as well. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's insane, isn't it? It's absolutely out there, and that batshit thing. You're absolutely right. It's like, right, so let's give him this. This celestial power, Genesis, and let's do this whole storyline with God and angels. And at some point, sitting down, specking out his story, he went, do you know what this needs? This needs a vampire. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm writing in a vampire too. And I love that. That's just... I spent a lot of time reading... It belongs to a DC Comics imprint called Vertigo Comics, which sadly got wrapped up last year, but it was a section of DC's publishing house that gave the writers and artists complete creative control. And I think you see that in titles like The Preacher and the magic that giving that creative control over can create. Because they can just kind of let their imaginations absolutely run wild. And there's some titles that have gone even more wacky and batshit than The Preacher. But yeah, it's an exceptional story, and the way the narrative is unfolding, and his timing when he chooses to put a flashback in and say, "Right, now's the right time to give you more understanding as to why this thing we're looking at in the present day is the way that it is," which is just something else. Is Hair Star on the scene yet?
Yes, he is.
Does he come in? Did he come in the first 2 volumes? So the end of the first volume you read took you to the end of the Langelville, the stuff with grandmother and the 2 uncles, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And at the end of that book, there's some very cool artwork. It shows off one of it being Hair Stark, and I was like, well, that's weird because I haven't got a clue who this character is. And then he's introduced in book 2 along with his band of merry men.
Yes.
And talking of Hair Stark, I watched the TV series. So it took me onto the TV series because that is on Amazon Prime and is free at the moment.
Yep.
And series 1 is a slog. So to put it into context of the comic book, series 1, the end of the series is, I think, the second page of book 1. That's how far it gets. Literally, there's some elements into it, brings in some characters in, but as far as progression of story, you're very much looking at the second page of the first book that I read, brought me up to there, and then the second series that I've just started on seems to be a lot more fast paced. It's as if they kind of went, right, let's put the foot down because we ain't going to get any more. We're not going to get a series 3 if we do that again. But it is a hard slog. It's not actually that good. I kind of persevered, and it does seem to be that they're in New Orleans in the second series.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. With all the stuff with the voodoo man and the vampire death cult and stuff.
I think that's how that's going to unfold. Although they've not kept to the storyline of the book really at all, so I'm interested to see if the vampire cult is in fact a vampire cult, or if it's somewhere else that they shoehorn it into the stories, but they've veered way off course.
Yeah, I started the TV show. I couldn't stick with it, but interestingly enough, when we were talking about Walking Dead last episode, I said I struggled with Walking Dead because I felt like it was too similar to the comic book and following too much of the same kind of plot progression. The thing with The Preacher was that I felt it was too different and too far away from... well, maybe not from the comic book, but from what my imagination, like the sounds of the voices that I heard in my head when I read it, that I found the characterizations difficult to get on board with. Like Jesse and Cassidy, for example, just didn't kind of work for me. And I love it because they're 2 great, really solid career British actors doing the roles and stuff, and it's definitely well made. There's no two ways about it. It's an incredibly well made TV show. But whereas I didn't like Walking Dead because it felt too similar, this one feels too different. But I don't think it's different from the source material so much as it's different from what I created in my head from the reading experience.
Yeah, it's certainly like The Walking Dead and definitely the first series that I've watched, The Preachers, they're very slow storylines. And if you put that in comparison, have you watched any of the Vampire Diaries? No, they're quite girly in a way.
No, I've never seen it.
But I watched quite a few of them with the wife, and like you'll have an episode of the Vampire Diaries, and as much in that episode will happen as in like the whole series of The Walking Dead. Baddies become goodies, goodies become baddies. People be double crossed, like literally all in one episode. Whereas like, so I watched. The only reason I remember that comparison is that I was watching The Walking Dead and that at the same time, and then you'd watch The Walking Dead, and it'd be, we've built a farm. It's taken us 3 episodes. Not much has happened.
Yeah,
and
I always used to have that problem with Game of Thrones. That used to bother me. It's like, right, we're going north of the wall. 4 episodes of watching Jon Snow walk literally in the snow. He gets to where he's going. You have a 20-minute conversation with someone, and it's like, right, back to the wall. 4 episodes of him walking back to the wall. I'm just like, what? Come on. I don't watch this show for that. I watch this show because I want to see flaming swords and dragons.
Yeah.
Get on with it. You know, something about what you were saying reminded me of that. But just circling back round to the comic book, I'm really glad you enjoyed the artwork. That was one of the reasons why I put it on the list, because you'd mentioned about the Thunderbolts, and you probably recognised through reading it the Steve Dillon work from Thunderbolts Volume 2 that you'd read. So I'm really glad you enjoyed that. Steve Dillon is really good. He's done a Punisher run with Garth Ennis as well that's very, very good.
Oh, I bet that is good. I bet that's
it is
mental.
It adopts a very similar Blackley comic tone to Preacher as well, and does some stuff with the Punisher that's dark in that same sort of way. So maybe we'll look at that sometime in the future. Garth Ennis he's a British writer as well. In fact, Steve Dillon is a British artist too. It's from a kind of small staple of writers that went over to America. They were ex-2000 AD guys.
I could see that. It's very much 2000 AD. I read a few as a kid, and it screamed of that in the kind of the whole style of it and artwork, and people having the backs of their heads blown off and just being. Yeah. I don't know about you. I remember the first time I picked one up and it was like amazing. And it was like all that my comics knowledge had been like the Beano or the Dandy, and then I've got this like blue space trooper like shooting the crap out of people, and this massive like Judge Dredd,
the road trooper,
just charging around and like shooting and killing loads of people, and it was just very exciting as a young kid.
Yeah, and that sort of irreverent tone of just not caring, and definitely jumped across. And what you'll find is probably a few more that I've put on the list for episodes in the future will be sort of Garth Ennis's peers. There's like a little group of sort of British writers who have very similar sensibilities, and hopefully if you've enjoyed The Preacher, you'll enjoy them. But a cracking volume, one that I'd recommend, and it sounds like you'd recommend too.
Yeah, certainly would.
Yeah. So we'll stop there. Like we say, we're not going to go blow by blow synopsis and stuff, but another win on the comic book rereads. I suspect my next one might not be quite as popular, but we'll see how it goes. Not to prime it up. So I think 3 episodes in, going into the 3rd episode, I better do some superhero stuff, hadn't I, really? Some proper superhero stuff. And I'm going to take you back to the late 80s to one of the very first comics I ever read. And I haven't revisited it in a while, but I do have very fond memories of reading these titles. It's going to be the Keith Giffen Justice League International first volume from, I think it was 1988-ish, 89.
How exciting. Some actual superhero stuff.
Yeah, we're going to get a bit campier, a bit cheesier, a bit more, tights and capes.
Wow, it'd be nice to read one where someone's not maliciously murdered for no reason, or mentally like having a mental breakdown. That's good.
Well, we're only 2 episodes in. Hey. We're only 2 episodes in. We'll give you a bit of capes and tights, and then we'll get back to the dark stuff.
Okay,
later. All right,
awesome.
All right then. Well, on to the next segment. There we go then, yeah. So off the back of the war drums,
Boom, 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 boom.
we are into our random segment, which once again is, I suppose, one of those little weird, nerdy topics that enters our lives. However, this isn't as a result of a Facebook post, as was the last one. This came out of a conversation that me and Andy were having. To reiterate from the introduction, it is my contention that Jack Bauer is just a rougher, tougher, harder, better, more solid action dude than John McClane, and he could totally beat John McClane in a fight.
And just to make that clear, that is wrong.
Well, I firmly believe that you are completely on the wrong side of this, and I think you'll struggle to find any evidence to support that claim.
Right. So why? Like, I admit that I've not watched much of 24. I've watched about the first 4 episodes. I do, however, have the Wikipedia in front of me, a synopsis of all the seasons, which, as interesting as it would be for me to read out, and as annoying it would be if I read it all out, and just spoiled 7 seasons, or 9, 8, God knows how many seasons of 24. I would admit that this dude has gone through the absolute ringer. Like how he is not in a loony bin, I do not know, because you read through what happens to there's 9 series. Each one of them, I think he's labelled a traitor and he's captured by someone and he's tried to get murdered. And
there's always a mole. There's always a torture scene. For sure. Yeah.
But in the end of the day, he's a glorified office man, isn't he?
Well, no, he's not. He's a field agent. He's out and about in the field. Why would you say he's a glorified office man?
Doesn't he just wear suits?
Nope.
Okay.
See, that's because you've not watched the series and you don't know. No, Jack Bauer's out in the field, out and about, investigating, hustling, sorting out these terrorists. He's part of the counter-terrorism unit, which is an elite unit of, well, supposedly an elite unit. They get a lot of things wrong, apparently, including hiring lots of traitors and moles. Apparently, but
very wrong.
Yeah. However, Jack Bauer himself is rock solid, man. Rock solid. He's an army dude. He was in the army. He was like a Green Beret and a what do they call it? What's the American Special Forces? Delta Force. Is it Delta Force?
I don't know.
He was a Green Beret and in Delta Force and a paratrooper, and I think he might have been a Navy SEAL at one point. And basically, any elite specialist, shooty, parachutey, swimmy kind of unit thing, he was a part of. He was in the CIA.
Yeah, but that's. I see him in my limited knowledge and my read through of Wikipedia, which is obviously as much as I need, as he's more of a detective-y kind of hacky, computery, thinky person.
No,
I don't see him as an action person.
He certainly, he uses technology as part of his investigation. But I'm telling you, man, Jack Bauer has killed more terrorists than I've had hot dinners with paper clips.
With paper clips. However, is he the hero of Nakatomi?
Well, no, he doesn't. He's a hero, but he doesn't need the recognition.
Did he take up John McClane took on the whole lot in that building on his own with no shoes on?
Sure. There was 7 of them?
No, I think there's more like 12.
Okay, 12. I'm telling you, man, Jack Bauer has, on his own, with a pistol and a paperclip, taken on 30 terrorists in a compound before now.
On his own?
Might have had a hand grenade as well, yeah.
But then he just see, this is where my knowledge is not giving me enough to go back on. But, I mean, John McClane, you've got Die Hard 1, Nakatomi, Die Hard 2, Airport, with a squad of Marines, or 2 squads of Marines, in fact, does them all in. Die Hard 3, where he takes on another load of army men and challenges, mental challenges, like how do I fit 4 litres of water into a bottle? That's 5 litres.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough for sure.
That's why he had Samuel L. Jackson alongside him. Saying that,
of course.
Did Jack Bauer ever have Samuel L. Jackson as his mate?
He had many and varied sidekicks and assistants.
Didn't ask Mary. Did he have Samuel L. motherfucking snakes on on a plane Jackson as his like sidekick?
He did not.
There you go. Point to me. Then Die Hard 4, where he takes on a load of more terrorists who are computer nerds in a truck, and and I think he kills one with a helicopter.
He does, yeah.
You know, amazing. And then you've got Die Hard 5, where he takes on all of Russia because they captured his son. Does Jack Bauer take on a whole country and win?
Yeah, many times. In fact, that entire catalogue of John McClane's heroic achievements is probably somewhere in the region of 10-15% of what Jack Bauer has done in one season of 24.
What's the, like, 15 hours?
Yeah. He does that. He does that in a season, mate. Jack Bauer deactivates nuclear bombs with a Swiss Army knife.
I don't think we're going to come to an agreement on this one.
I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, New York City cops are not well trained or anything, but they're not Delta Force trained, are they? They're not Green Beret trained. Just the facts of the characters surely must be enough.
No, I mean, would Jack Bauer have the balls to go into the middle of Harlem with a racist board on whilst he's hungover?
He wouldn't have to. Jack Bauer would have found Simon already. He'd have found Simon and taken care of business before it even came to that.
That scene is. We talk about cringy stuff earlier. That scene is just like, oh my God.
Tumble, yeah, that's a rough and tumble scene. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm clearly never going to convince you, but should you ever watch 24, you will very quickly come to the realization that Jack Bauer is possibly the toughest dude ever.
Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, mate, his performance is brilliant in the show. Yeah, just to put aside the comedy debate thing, he is really good as Jack Bauer.
Cool. Well, I think I'm going to have to watch the episodes. We'll watch them and then find out for myself. If there's 24, is this 24 episodes in a series?
Yes, yes, there is. That's the whole concept. Each episode is an hour in the day where the events are unfolding.
And they'd give it 9 seasons, so that's 216 episodes.
So you'll be ready to come back and talk about it next episode?
Yeah, well, that's 9 solid days worth of watching. I suppose it's 45 minutes, aren't they? Because they have adverts all like.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you noticed? Like Americans have adverts every 2 minutes?
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very. It's how they make the money, man.
Yeah, true. I suppose they haven't got to pay a license fee like we do.
No.
So 9 solid days. I have to try and find them because I did have a look to see if I could watch at least the first season. I've got a story about why I've not watched all of the first season, which I'm not going to share.
Okay. Oh, you've told me the story.
Yeah, I've told you.
Yeah.
But I need to kind of find it, not for however much I've found it to download it on. So I will have a look at least the first season and then we can revisit it once I've got a better idea.
Okay, fair enough. No problem. But I would encourage the listeners stroke viewers to let Andy know in the comments below.
Please do.
How much he is on the wrong side of this.
I think you will find that John McClane is by far a more loved killer of terrorists than Jackie Bauer.
Well, just wait and see, man.
We'll wait and see, won't we?
Wait and see. All right. Well, there we go. So let us know, guys, which side do you come down? Are you Team Chris with Jack Bauer, or are you Team Andy with John McClane? Do you have any thoughts as to what we might do for our random segment next episode?
Yeah, leave them in the comments. What verses should we do next? Because we've not thought of one yet, have we?
No, and it seems to be going in that direction where we'll just kind of put 2 characters up against each other week in, week out. So let us know. But at that point there, we'll revisit this one when Andy gets caught up and we'll move on to we'll close up the episode.
Yep.
Well, there we are then, folks. As all things must, this episode of MoDXtra has come to an end. We hope you enjoyed listening.
as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Yeah, I might as well reuse that one, mightn't I?
Yeah, it's why change a classic?
Absolutely, yeah. So just to summarise, the rewatches, if you are playing along, are Short Circuit as the retro movie. It's the Keith Giffen era Justice League International, the first volume. And let us know your thoughts and comments as to what we should battle out in our next episode.
So
that's about it, isn't it? Yeah.
That is.
Keep an eye out on the Twitch channel and, get involved in that.
Yeah. Also, have a look at the other videos that will be up on this channel that you're listening to this on, our YouTube channel, as we do, and we'll be putting up some other stuff. You had a cracking one on a comic book for Superman, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I've just started a little series. So I was going through some old comic boxes, looking for some inspiration, in fact, mate, for the Chris's Comic Book Corner. And I came across a little bundle of comic books that were novelty or gimmick comic book covers that was a thing back in the 90s. So I'm just going through my long boxes and digging out curiosities and sharing them on screen. And I started specifically with Superman titles because I had enough to make a video out of. And keep your eyes and ears open for the next installment, which is going to be X-Men related titles. And there's some belting novelty covers that Marvel were doing around the X-Men stuff back then in the early 90s. And we've started just doing a few gameplay clips as well. I think there's an Apex video went up. Maybe I did that before. Early, I don't know, but be sure to follow us on YouTube for all that extra value content as well.
Please do,
and let us know, folks, if there is anything that you'd like, you think would be a good fit content-wise for us that you'd be interested to see or would like us to have a go at. We'd be more than happy to. Yeah, I've got some trading card collections and stuff that I thought maybe might make a fun show and tell vid out of.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've got my absolute pride and joy. I've got a complete set of the manga. You remember the manga label from the 90s? I've got a complete set of their Akira trading cards.
Wow.
Yeah, in the official binder, and I've got all the rare foils and promos that they did too. Might do a little show and tell on that.
That's cool. Whatever happened to Garbage Pail Kids? I always like those cards.
Interesting. I think they're still around,
Do you?
I got a feeling like maybe one time in Smith's Toys or whatever, or the Entertainer, while picking stuff up for my little ones, I feel like I've seen them in the corner of my eye.
We'll investigate and come back to you on the next episode.
I definitely think I saw a Furby knocking around.
That's not quite the same, though, is it?
No, it absolutely isn't. I was just remembering toys from days gone by.
And on that note...
Yeah, I've been Chris, a.k.a. TrueMr6.
And I've been Andy, a.k.a. Peter Venkman. Here's a creep.
Peter Venkman. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Right, should we lay some tape then, my man? Let's get this show on the road, shall we?
I'm in a weird mood. It may work, it may not.
I can tell. Is it the Chinese? Have you had too much? What's that stuff that?
MSG.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Too much local cat and dog.
That happens to my son when we give him Skittles. Well, let's see how we rock and roll then.